Howdy, cosmic friends and neighbors. Welcome to the Franki 411 podcast. I'm your host, Haleigh 𝓕𝓻𝓪𝓷𝓴𝓲. And yes, you could call me Franki. What's the 411 on today's episode? Let's dive in and find out. Well, welcome to another episode of the Franki 411 podcast. I am bringing back my friend Sarah Hussain from Segue of Mind. And she is going to demonstrate a coaching session and reading session on me because my inner being obviously knows that I need a little bit of assistance and has graciously allowed me to connect with Sarah and have a good friend who would give me maybe a little bit of assistance that I've been asking for. So hi, Sarah. Thanks for joining me.
Hi, Haleigh. It's a pleasure. It's so wonderful to see you after such a long time.
I know
And
it feels like
feels like it's been a while.
feel like it takes sort of longer, but also is moving faster at the same time?
Sometimes I think I'm with you on this. At times it seems like it's really slow and, you're able to really feel every day. And then in other times it seems really, really fast. I think what Einstein said about time, that it's relative. It's absolutely true. It depends on what we're focusing on.
And that's a concept that I think maybe I'm playing with a little bit too, that I am not using time as a tool to my advantage. I'm using it as a tool to torture myself and tell myself I don't have enough of it, and that I have too many things to do to fill my time, and yeah, it's just, I think that's again some of that subconscious programming that we need to undo.
Yeah, the time thing. Like, I feel like sometimes this narrative that we have of time, just telling ourselves, oh, I'm running out of time, it really creates that space where we actually are running out of time and we have so much anxiety to get things done. And there is a lot of guilt for not being on time. So there's so many effects of not understanding what we can do to our time. We can either dilate it or we can constrict it. I think, I started this exercise in the mornings. I would get up and I would just tell myself that today I have plenty of time and I will get through everything I have set out for today. And I will do it while having fun. So I made fun I was very intent on having fun during the day. And by the time I went to bed earlier than usual. And by the time I went to bed, I did have a lot of fun. I just ended up having, people I was talking to were in great mood. I was in great spirits. And it really does something to the inner psychology of having control. So I felt like I have control, we can do this and we can do that. And I'm so focused on, on that narrative now within myself that I have control. Just makes the work flow so much easier. And
right.
You should try
that. It's a vibe that I'm definitely looking for, is like that I want to have more fun in my now moments, right? And so what do I need to be doing to sort of refocus myself? I think that's, like I said, my inner being, my multi-dimensional selves and I have been arguing with each other most of this week, and it's been a lot of, I'm really tired of having to look for the vibration of the things that I want in order for them to materialize, and they're not materializing fast enough anyway, even when I feel like I'm, actively trying to be grateful or practice appreciation and practice the positivity and things like that, right? And even that sort of energy is annoying to me because I'm like, don't I know better than to like let myself sit in that energy? And don't I know better that that's not good for me? And so it's a sort of back and forth, like, loop conversation about like, well, this energy doesn't serve you, and this isn't the sort of law of attraction frequency you're trying to build for yourself. So why do you let yourself be stuck in it, kind of thing? And then that other voice saying, well, if, isn't it a condition to say that I have to vibrate in a certain way in order to receive the good things that are available to me in the universe? And doesn't that go against the unconditional love that I want to believe in? So it's a very circular, silly, not useful argument that I am having with myself this week.
I wanted to jump right into the reading, but
Mhm.
um, I do want to talk a little bit about this argument that you're having with the universe. Um,
Yeah.
so all right, just FYI, I'm in my coaching mode now, so here we go.
Go for it. Here we go. We're jumping in. This is the session. This is what it looks like.
Yeah, so essentially, Haley, when you say that you have to vibrate at the same frequency of what you want, um, how does that make you feel?
It's a feeling of like I have to effort myself into the space that I would prefer to be in, which in and of itself is counterintuitive because it's like if it's my natural state of being, it should be easy for me to drop into, right? So
Right,
why am I
absolutely.
it's a like now I'm chasing a vibrational state and it's not the external world that I'm like chasing necessarily, right? Like I keep chasing this vibrational state and feeling like I can't hold on to it.
And it also means that that vibrational state is separate to who you are, right? Because then who
Right.
you are is you're trying to grab that vibrational state and make it who you are. But that entire effort can be ongoing for several years and it cannot yield any result because there is trying to bring a vibrational state into who you are and you're taking them as separate things. Um, and this happened to me, this happens to most people. I think what is useful is understanding that it starts from who we are. So we don't have to bring a vibrational state to us. It's who we are. Now let's look at who you are right now internally. What's going on?
Besides the argument with myself.
And that will in turn hopefully resolve the argument. So when you are having that argument, what do you say to yourself? Right? Universe is all love and why should it be this hard? Or what is it that you say?
Yeah, things like that. Things like, haven't I been doing the things that I can do to the best of my ability? Like, am I not, trying hard, I don't know, trying hard enough. Again, that trying, right? That keeps coming up. It's a lot of I have a really very clear vision of what I want my life to be, what I want my life to look like. I have a very clear vision of like, the partner that I would like to attract. I have a very clear vision of the kind of people that I want to be surrounded by and talking to. So if I have that really very clear vision, what is it that is standing in my way if I really do believe the universe has the ability to like manifest and create that vision around me? How can I still be standing in my way?
You are the universe. You are the
Right.
one that's creating.
So it's that's kind of where I get frustrated with myself, like that I know that and I understand that. So then I think, well, then shouldn't my external reality look differently than it does?
That's a good question. I would just pause here. So let's go back to the universe and what it can create. So the universe can create infinite possible rays, and we all have it in our. Um, we have the ability of creating that. But how do we create things? It really is quite an internal process, and so whenever you say the universe can do that for me, you're separating yourself from the universe.
This
And
is
that
true.
thought
Yeah.
process is so it's like the universe has its own will, you have your own will, and you're like, why doesn't the universe do what I want? And
Hmm.
that's really frustrating. And it when you are separating the universe from who you are, you're missing one of the integral parts of the process. That is to understand that you are in the universe. There is no separation. You are the universe. So it's about you creating. And your will is the universe's will. You are the universe. So there's one will. What then happens is that you let go all of a sudden. Because you're like, I don't have to convince anybody because I am the universe. And what my will is the universe's will. So the convincing part is gone. The universe is already.
Yeah, that justifying sort of like the worthiness justification sort of thing,
The
right? Like,
worthiness. Am I good enough?
don't I believe that I'm good enough for this? And like,
Yeah.
haven't I believed that hard enough to have created different
Yeah, absolutely.
I think some of that because there's that subconscious programming of the so maybe talk a little bit about that or help me with that because I know that I get caught in that loop of duality of I am the universe, I can create anything, I have all of the solutions to all of my perceived problems available to me, my suffering is an illusion. Okay, if I understand that academically and sometimes tap into it vibrationally, right? Then what is this other voice that says that I still have things that I need to do or accomplish or finish? And so for example, I need a podcast editor because I am super behind and or I need to not have a 9 to 5 job anymore, right? So if I am the universe and I have those solutions available, I don't necessarily I understand that, like, my human mind is not designed to know all of the steps and how to orchestrate getting me from where I am to where I wanna be. So how do I sort of integrate that, like, okay, I am the universe, but also I do not, in my human form, have the ability to perceive all of the infinite possibilities the way my higher self, my inner being can perceive them, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's sort of that trust integration to some degree, right? So I don't know. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because there's
Yes.
something there to the idea of the will of the universe is my will. Like, why do I keep telling myself this story that the universe doesn't want me to have everything I want to have as quickly and easily as I want to have it? Like, why do why do I tell myself that the universe withholds things from me?
Yeah, so what it seems like when I look at you is that there is an internal belief system, internal programming is which is what needs to be fixed. And that is going to childhood. Um, so let's talk about this a little bit. Um, when it comes to having things, how was it in childhood?
You know, it's kind of interesting. I have sort of a dynamic of so like when I was a kid, I I think it's kind of one of those like I didn't realize that we didn't have as much as I thought we had until I don't know, it's like where did that lack mindset come in? Where did that enter? And I know it had
Were
to
you
do with like
allowed to have it? How did the adults around you treat? If you asked for something, were you just given it?
no. Like so I suppose that's probably part of it. The I have a very much like and it I'm in a space where I understand, like, I don't blame my mom for it. I know that she just learned it from her parents and they're like it's that chain of pain, the cycle of it,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And but she always was very and still is like holds it over your head that she has done things for you, spent money on things for you, you know. And so like I remember like me getting braces being such a big issue between my parents because they were like had just gotten divorced and like I like the money issue of like I needed braces and the sort of contention that was associated with it and then like held over my head is like it's my fault then it's my dad's fault that they were so expensive and or you know yeah just a very dynamic of like I did these things for you and it wasn't her pleasure to do them.
Yeah.
That was the sense I got in the programming that it was like, "Yes, I will provide these things for you, but I'm not happy about it, and I want you to
Mhm.
feel bad that I have the burden of having to provide these things for you."
Mhm. So you feel like you don't deserve it.
Like, you don't like, there's no way that you could have enough gratitude to, like, satisfy what you were receiving, even if it wasn't even even if it wasn't necessarily it's not like I liked having braces. Like, yes, I'm glad
Mhm.
that my teeth have gotten straightened, but it wasn't a happy process for me. So it's not like I was
Mhm.
super excited that it was a expensive process either. It's like it's not like I'm
Mhm.
enjoying it.
Yeah. So what it does, Haleigh, it creates this inner dialogue where you tell yourself that you're not good enough to receive.
Mhm.
And also, your mom at the time was your provider in a way. And how she replied to you and how she was towards you was not generous, keeping things, withholding things,
Right.
and saying that you cannot do enough to say thank you for the things I've done.
Mm.
So what that creates the cycle of never really asking much. Because then how will you
Right.
say thank you enough times to be able to then successfully proceed to the next task?
Right.
Because the first ask, you have to say thank you so much. And what it does to you right now is that you have created that relationship with the universe
Mhm.
where what do I need to do? If you recall in the beginning of the conversation, you said, what is it that I need to do in order to bring it to me?
Mhm. Yeah, it's kind of like the reverse engineer of it. That, well, if you don't have the capacity to appreciate enough to receive.
Yeah. And
So,
also, I want
like,
to,
yeah, no, I that's a great therapy session for me already. That it, like, that is very true. It's having that conversation. I it's not my child self and my mom anymore. It's like my human self and my higher self. And now I think I'm replicating that conversation, even though that's not the way the conversation's actually, like, I understand my higher self is trying to talk to me differently than that.
okay. Um, I feel like how still you view yourself as that little child, and your
Mhm.
higher self is an authority of providing, right? That's happening with you at the
Right.
moment.
Yeah. Mhm.
And what I want to basically tell you is that you are your higher self too. You are your higher self. And to give yourself some grace that you have gone through things, you have been through difficulties, you're at this place in your life, and you have the desire to have a fresh start and create a beautiful life and do a lot
Mhm.
of things and put a lot of things in order that you had thought of that you want in your life. So, give yourself some grace and allow yourself to kind of ease into that state of being. And I
Mhm.
think then to proceed and understand that you are a creator and there is no creator separate to you. You can God, universe,
Right.
higher self.
Source.
It's a part of you, source. It's through
Mhm.
you. It works through you. So it's not the problem becomes when remove we start to think that we are different to that source. That's the problem.
Mhm.
And it is very important in the process of creation to know, to acknowledge, to embody that you are source. You are creator. And when that starts to happen, you can then see that whatever had happened in the past it was unfortunate, but it was also a result of programming that your mother had. And then that
Mhm.
got onto you. And you can see it from your source eyes that that is not true, though. That's just the result of some bad parenting. But also, sorry, I don't mean to like say too
No,
with your mom,
it's like
but
it's the human game, right? And it's like, okay, if I know that this is a game that I'm playing, right? That's if I am we're all God just playing a game with ourselves, right? And it's like, okay, if I do believe that that is what reality is, and I'm just playing this character, okay, now I want to play a different character who believes different things.
that
So,
is one way to look at it.
mhm,
That's one way to look at it. But I think the more important or prominent thing um, to have here is to acknowledge that what happened in the past was a result of a programming that your mother had, and then it got carried on to you. And it is not reality. It is not the
right.
absolute truth. And it cannot do anything for you in this stage of your life.
Mhm.
This stage of your life requires that you let go of that program. When your internal self understands that you have almost graduated from the childhood and now you're a grown up, you can then see and let go and forgive and just really understand what the programming was and then just let it go and forgive it. Lesson learned, but you're letting go of the pain, letting go of the attachment. Also, you're letting go of the programming. So you're going to start having internal shifts. You're going to start feeling like a new Haleigh. And that is what you want to feel
Ready
like.
for that.
So Haleigh, it comes from a lot of forgiveness and understanding of what the truth is. And the truth is that you are fully capable. You are the universe. You are the creator of your life. And you can, not even you can, you'll create the life. That's just how it is. You are the one to create the life. And withholding the past is an egoistic. Withholding attachments to the past trauma is an egoistic.
Right. And so, like, that's another thing, too, where I'm like, this is helpful to me because I do, like, it gets sometimes a little frustrating when, I do see myself as like, okay, you recognize yourself to be an infinite multidimensional being, right? So why do you attach so much to this human story and this human past, right? And why do you have to dig into any of those problems and know what those things were? Like, why can't you just let it go? And I like what's kind of sort of coming to me now is this idea of like, okay, but you chose to be this human. So why wouldn't you want to be invested in the story of this human? And that includes what you view as this past that is still, yes, it's still a story you created and you made up for yourself. But, don't you want to be invested in your own story? And that includes the old programming and understanding what it was, so sort of, I don't know. Yeah, it's the interesting kind of perspective that's just kind of coming up for me.
Interesting. The perspective that that you have to attach yourself to the older programming even when it is not serving you.
No, not to attach to it, but that I haven't had an interest in like digging into it or looking at it. Like I've kind of said like I don't care what it was in my past. I don't care what that old programming was. I don't need to name it. I just want to let it go. But that's kind of I suppose maybe part of it that if you don't know what
Mhm.
it is, how are you supposed to let it go?
Yeah, it's almost like, I have this suitcase with me and it has a
Mhm.
bunch of stuff and it is my stuff. And right now something is creating, it is making the suitcase turn blue from the outside. There's
Mhm.
something that's leaking, but I don't want to open the suitcase and see what it is that's leaking and making it. I'm just going to keep the suitcase on the side, but it is turning blue. What I'm trying to say is that sometimes we're required to go to our childhood, and not
Mhm.
even some, most times, we're required to go to our childhood and really understand what happened and how we can release it. Because we
Mhm.
can't have pain and trauma that is keeping us from living our authentic lives at the moment. And unless you do the work, how would you be able to let go of the pain and trauma? It would be very difficult to feel like your authentic self. If a pain or a trauma is still awake in your consciousness and it is triggering an egoistic response. So how our consciousness is, Haleigh, and I think you'll find it very useful, is that think about your consciousness like a ball.
Mhm.
So it's a ball. Something like this. Okay.
Mhm.
So it's a ball. And then when you think about so this also has energy, essentially. Your energy is all towards you. The moment you break your childhood programming, the ball has now taken some step away from your consciousness, going to your childhood.
Mhm.
So you're not entirely with yourself. You're not entirely with yourself. A part of you is missing. A part
Right.
of you has traveled down to that memory and is staying there. And to have that, and you know what? what you were saying about why do I, this is the story I created. This was the childhood I wanted to have. Um, Part of it is absolutely true. This is the
Mhm.
story you needed to have, but there was a purpose behind it. Have you learned the purpose?
Right, and that is the thing that I'm kind of driving myself nuts with a little bit, that, do I even that but the visual of the suitcase does help. Like, if you're gonna lighten the load of the suitcase, you have to clean it out and throw out the things that you don't actually need anymore, but you're still carrying around. So,
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
does make sense.
Every programming is, it gives us a self inside of us. And I will come to this in a bit. I'm just going to go back to that state of being where you're thinking about the past or you have trauma from the past or programming from the past. So the entire purpose of choosing a life or choosing your mom to teach you some lesson was so that you have certain internal shifts, certain personality characters, which help you a lot in the rest of your life. That also means that you may have certain things which don't serve you, and to understand what it was.
Mhm.
If something is not serving you and you go back to your childhood and you look at what it is and then you understand why it was there, it is only going to make you more wise. And it is only going to bring back control to you. Because the child Haleigh is no longer there. Now there is an adult Haleigh.
Right.
Now the Haleigh knows what's right, what's wrong. She has boundaries. So when you reflect on your childhood, there's a lot to learn from that you can use to make your life better right now. So I would encourage you that whenever you think about, I don't want to think about it, it's a part of my story, be fearless in looking back and understand that this is a part of your story for a reason. What is the reason? Let me get to that reason. Let me understand it and bring that reason with me right now, because that reason will have value. And then you can move forward. Um, does this help?
Yeah, I just the it's gonna be one of those things where I have to integrate a little bit, but it does help me to sort of think of it, just reframe it a little bit. I think sometimes the effort element of like going back and looking, it seems more like a chore than fun, and I want to have fun. So it's like, okay, well, if I can turn it into more of maybe like a mystery thing, like, okay, what's the mystery of this thing that I think is standing in my way? Where does that come from? Sort of thing. And it
Mhm.
is kind of, the idea of like there's a part of your consciousness with that memory who's sort of like babysitting that infinite version of you that's still your inner child, and that's why you feel incomplete. Is like, that visual sort of makes sense to me too, right? That like that's why there's certain, like, sometimes you have an emotion that comes up and like suddenly you'll have like a flash of an image. This happens to me anyway. Like I have a flash of an image from childhood or high school or this or that, and I'll be like, why would I, like, what is that for? Like, what was in that moment that is supposed to be telling me something right now?
Yeah. So that seems like a trigger, and it seems like
Hmm.
it takes you to a dark place. So I'm going to ask you, have you forgiven what has happened in childhood? Forgiven your mom, forgiven
I mean,
yourself.
that's a, I think that's what it is. Like, I keep thinking that I have forgiven everyone else, but it's like it's me that I get mad at now. So it's like, well, why am I mad at me? And,
Yeah.
have that being mad at myself. It's like it's just
Mhm.
not useful.
Right. So when you describe visiting your past as a chore, that means that there's a lot of pain there.
Hmm.
And there is pain because there's not, forgiveness hasn't been completed in that
Hmm.
area. And unless you completely forgive, you're not going to experience peace in that area. So when you allow yourself to experience the pain, and it could be that you meditate, you get into a place, you visit your past, you allow yourself to experience the pain, you cry it out, you release it
Hmm.
from your system, and then you forgive everybody involved. You learn the lesson and you forgive everyone involved. and you just shed light to that area of your life, watch how quickly it's going to affect your reality right
I
now.
hope
Because
so. That's why I'm here and what we're looking for, right? Like, it's such a and that's such a thing for me too. The idea of like, I know that you can quantum shift yourself into like a wildly different reality. I know it's possible, right?
yeah,
Okay, so
and
maybe there's an element of that. There's an element of sort of there's prove it kind of thing, right? There's a little bit of that in me of like, I want proof sort of thing. And so there has to also then be a part of me that thinks that I have to prove myself, right? Like that's the flip side of that coin. Okay, prove it to me then that this is possible. And but that comes from that flip side of like you still have to prove yourself in order to justify your deserving of whatever that, proof is that you think you need.
yeah, while you're saying that, Haley, I can literally see what a chore it is.
Right? Yeah. It's very circular
It's
or
it's
seems that way.
it's quite a chore. Let's dig a little bit deeper. Let's take a break from these infinite realities. I understand this narrative, but sometimes
Mhm.
there's a confusion in what it is actually. People don't really understand and they can misunderstand and then have their own understanding of how it works and the science behind it and all of that. So we'll come back to it and we'll describe it. But for now, let's reflect into who you are and what you are becoming at this very moment.
Okay. I mean, I am definitely in a place where I'm like, I'm proud that I'm doing the things that I'm doing, that I'm putting in the effort and that I'm like doing my podcasts and I am putting myself out there and not, sitting and like being so worried that people will think this, that, or the other thing about whatever I put out there. I'm like, well, whatever. If you don't resonate with it, then there's nothing for me to do about that. So,
Mhm.
I'm actively looking for different ways to follow my passions and I am, proud of myself that I see this other future for, that I recognize that it's possible sort of thing, right? That it's not
Yeah.
just a pipe dream like, college version of Haleigh thought like, well, this is all a pipe dream, it's never actually going to happen kind of thing. And it's like, no, it everything can go according to, the vision that I have, even if I don't have a plan for it, right?
So it seems like there is a still a conflict inside
Mhm.
because there's a lot of convincing yourself and convincing that yeah, you got this, you have this. There's a lot of talking and there's a lot of narratives, but there's less feeling and less being of who you really are. So I'm just going to zone into you a little bit more.
Mhm.
There's a lot of pain that is there inside, and you're scared of almost looking into the pain.
Mhm.
And it is a very vital part of the process where you look into the pain and you release it and you find peace within yourself. Whatever happened back in in childhood, whatever happened before, what others made you feel, how others gave you a place that this is where you stay, no more. This is
Mhm.
your place. Usually there was, um, it would make you feel you can't move. You don't have control. You can't get
Right.
out of the space that you're put in. This is how it comes across in your consciousness. It is very important to visit those areas, visit those dark thoughts, and understand who you truly are is not what other people told you. Feel that pain and to release it. And this process of releasing that internal pain, releasing the internal trauma and the dark thoughts is going to give you a lot of space for light. It's also quite rejuvenating. So you'll feel very refreshed.
Yeah, I need some refreshment. That's for sure.
Yeah. So when we think about creating different realities and that there are, you can quantum leap and then people start bringing in quantum physics and whatnot, a part of me gets very frustrated because of my background, I'm an engineer, I research on consciousness.
Mhm.
I get very frustrated because they're teaching it in a very, it's almost like fantasy. It's fantasy. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, if you do this, you can quantum leap into another, place. And it's not a constructive way of letting people know what is possible. Because people who this entire fantasy narrative that you can get it and, you can just like turn into a millionaire tomorrow and whatever is associated with it is that a lot of dark thoughts are there too, because you're working out of an ego at times. People want to, people want to create grand lives. They want to create absolutely beautiful lives. And that doesn't allow them to actually get in touch with their true selves and ask their true selves, hey, what's your path? Your path is going to be of abundance and your path is going to be absolutely fulfilling and peaceful. And when you get in touch with it, you're going to see the path. What this entire narrative of you're in this reality, you can be that reality, yada, 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 that fantasy world is what gets me a little bit upset with the narrative that's happening right. Because that takes away from the process of looking in within.
I like, it's resonating with me right now because I think it goes into like my overthinking, right? Like when it's too much of like trying to like understand all of the different facets, all of the different possibilities, and not enough of the like, well, the whole point is that I don't know all of the possibilities because I'm not built to focus on all of those things. I'm not built to think about all of those things, and it's not my job to think about all of those things, right? Like your job is to be whatever is the vibration of you, and the things that are aligned with that show up. So just I don't know, maybe there's a technique, maybe there's a something like, so far this is helpful, but it's one of those like, this is the vibration that I know I'm trying to tap into more often, right?
Right. So what you're trying to do is create realities. It's a lot of mental work. What I
Right.
encourage you to do, and what I think you'll find useful, is not to look to create realities. Get in touch with who you are in your true self, with your soul, with your consciousness, because you have a path.
Mhm.
And then when you get in touch with your true self, that is when you will be creating, facilitating. But until you do that, Haleigh, until you get in touch with your true self and you're just creating these realities in your mind, it's going to be very frustrating and very chaotic. And there's going to be a lot of narrative
Right.
because
Yeah.
there's nothing backing it up. There's no energy backing it up. It's all like a
Mhm.
mental game. Oh, you do this, then this happens. Just do this happens. But that is
Right.
not the truth. It's like it's not going to yield anything. It's just a mental picture where we create up different realities. This is what I need to do, yada, yada, yada. Take a moment, take a pause and look within. Come to the understanding of who you are in your being, your true self. Meet with the pain, meet with the trauma, allow yourself to live through it. If you need to for a few days, release it. It is almost like, how do I release trauma without feeling pain? Well, that is the most wonderful pain you'll experience, because once you do that, you will be free of it. And honestly, I should have said actually this, that sometimes people think that reliving trauma is going to be painful. But when you actually get into the practice of doing that, like through transcendental meditations and whatnot, which is what I use with my clients and with, in my life with myself, it is not painful. It's quite awakening. You get a deep understanding of what happened. You're able to release attachment from your consciousness. So things don't trigger you as often. It's actually quite peaceful than the contrary. It's quite peaceful than what people expect it to be. It's not meant to be all teary and crying and like painful and where you're pushing yourself. And not that I've experienced, not that my clients have experienced as well. There's a lot of
So
peace.
I mean, as you're saying, like, as you're saying that, I'm like, that's the path I prefer. The path of like looking at it from a lens of, it doesn't have to be painful to revisit. It doesn't, So I do appreciate those things. So like, if transcendental meditation, then, or like, what would you recommend then as for me to, I guess, sort of utilize as a tool to like continue to look for or process whatever those things are that need to be processed. Because
Right.
it's kind of that situation too, where like until you're triggered, you don't know what it is to look for.
Right. And you're absolutely right. Until you're triggered, you don't know what it is that it's still causing you pain. Right. So you're absolutely right over there. One of the things that are most effective, Haley, is doing transcendental meditations and also writing things down for you and songs.
Yeah, no, that sounds right. So
Because
okay,
songs are somehow very close to you in your consciousness. So they're also a great way of releasing and tackling the older
mm,
programming or the older troubles that you still experience inside of you.
hmm
So to tackle them for you, songs are very important. Are you singing these days or are you writing songs?
no, I mean, no, I'm not like musical. Like I do. Like music is something I use for like visualizing when I'm sort of like imagining or right.
Mm,
It's so like
gotcha.
it does definitely help me tap into my creativity and
Right,
kind of zone out in a fun sort of way, right? Not in
right,
a
right.
let's go try to worry about things sort of way. So I think music does help me to be more playful.
Yeah. So let's talk about a little bit about tuning into yourself and clearing out the older programming, which is such
Hmm.
an important part of creating a new life. With the older programming, you just keep creating the old and you
Right.
have to release it and to have a new programming and a new understanding. And the more in touch you get with yourself, the more in touch you get with who you truly are, you will be able to then sense that true self, sense that higher self. And that higher self or true self, I usually use the term true self. It is who we truly are at our core. And it
Hmm.
knows the path. It has decided the path from beforehand.
Hmm.
And so it easily navigates us to that path. And I say easily because it's very effortless for the true self to navigate us to the path. And when you are attached to older programming and when you are attached to traumas from the past or pain, you are not tapped into your true self. Rather, you are in the state of your egoistic self. And the thing about the egoistic self is that it has a void. The void is this empty space of nothingness, but it looks like there's nothing, but um, it is when you feel empty. It is when you feel like you don't have it. There's
Right.
despair. There's a lot of, sadness and like you can get very easily depressed. You can get very easily, um, hopeless and triggered in many ways in that void. And when you start to let go of that pain, the trauma, the programming, and you start to slowly come into your true self. The beauty about the true self is that it doesn't have any void. It's quite fulfilling and very peaceful.
Hmm.
And the egoistic self starts to shrink and the void starts to shrink. And over time, it's going to disappear. So the emptiness is, you won't feel the emptiness unless you step into your egoistic self. As long as you're in your true self, You will feel quite peaceful, in touch with yourself, in touch with your path and who you truly are.
What transcendental meditation? So can you talk just a little bit more about that and like what kind of like, 'cause, some of it has to do with like using a mantra, right? Would you craft a would you suggest that I craft a mantra that is specific to me or something, or look for something, a different one that I can pull in and use, or
Yeah. So I'm going to, well, first of all, I invite you to do a session with me after the,
okay.
and I can coach you through it. Um, and I can coach you some of it, and the listeners right now, and what it does and how it is achieved. So a TM session, is essentially when you're accessing altered states of your mind. You're going into much deeper state of your mind. But most importantly, it is doing two simple things. You are slowing down your conscious mind, which is your prefrontal cortex, always thinking, always thinking. You're
Mm-hmm.
slowing it down, and you're going to your subconscious mind. Remember, your subconscious mind is integral in creating reality because it has the programming stored. It has where, you see your past. You can also
Right.
see your present. And you get a lot of clarity of what it is, what things mean, why they're there, what's your relationship with those things. So you understand the
Mm-hmm.
attachment to things, places, people in your subconscious mind. So when you go through TM to your subconscious mind, and then let's say you want to visit your childhood because you want to release that programming, then you ask to see your childhood and you ask to see what happened. You will essentially see exactly the kind of impact your childhood, that event has had on you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you release it. Now, I'm going to walk you through the process a little bit. First of all, it is best to be done with a coach because they can guide you. It is different, and it is very necessary for me to mention this. When I'm working with my clients, because I'm a medium and because I'm reading you right now and I'm always reading, so I'm facilitating the
I energetically get that sense too. Like I can, this whole call, I've just been like, I can, there's a different energy sort of signature that I'm able to kind of tap into when we're hanging out, even though it's kind of, digital world, but
yeah. Yeah, and thank you for saying that for people who are listening because they may not
no, because it is like
always.
the energy is tangibly different. And so that is, I'm very excited to do a transcendental meditation with you after this because I know that meditation, because I've always got that thinking brain on, like it, that is a big, I don't want to say it's a big hurdle because it makes it seem like it is, but like I know that that is one of my things that I need to let go of, right? Is like
Mhm.
all the noise that's going on and being able to tap into that vibrational sensation, right? That energetic sensation. And it's like, honestly, like in this whole, that, like I said, like throughout this whole call, like that we've had so far, like it's so much easier for me to sense that feeling. And so I appreciate the assist from the, I'm excited for what you will read also. And like I do again appreciate that about what you have to offer here because there is a lot of, I don't always like it's that you obviously like are picking up on the things that I need to look at first, that I'm like it's too scattered, it's too noisy, I don't know what to look at first. So definitely
Mhm.
helpful. But anyway,
You're
sorry, go
welcome.
ahead. I, like
You're absolutely welcome. All right. So yeah, going back to the TM session. So essentially when we're working through the TM session and when I'm um excuse me, when I'm working as a coach with people and I'm taking them through a TM session to release attachment to the
mhm,
past, it is a collaborative effort. So my consciousness is, as a medium, is working with the client's consciousness at all
mhm,
times. And it is especially useful during the TM sessions as I interact and facilitate the release of attachment. So that's why I say that it becomes very powerful if you're doing it with a coach or if you're doing it with a guide, because they are then interacting with you and facilitating it Yeah, so you know what? My resources are going to be somewhere in the description if people want to reach out if somebody needs this. All right, now going back to how it is done. So you're
Hmm.
essentially getting into a state of complete relaxation. So you sit in a nice, relaxed state, close your eyes, you start taking deep breaths, and then you start to gently look slightly above your eye level and go to the state of meditation. You
Okay.
enter that state. And when you enter that state, you will know when you're entering a meditative state. It becomes
Hmm.
very easy again with a coach because I'll be facilitating it. So I'll just take you through it. It's just a lot
Hmm.
easier for you to enter it. When we get to that state, essentially, that is now when we call out the things that need to be addressed. So it's
Hmm.
like, I who's there? It's one
Yeah.
of those
Who's
things.
who's behind door number one?
Yeah. So who's there? You know, what it is that I need to address right now from my childhood. So it could be that you see your dad. It could be that you see your mom and that you see something
Hmm.
that's still attached to you. Whenever you're releasing an attachment that you do not want, you release it to earth. And whenever you're
Okay.
bringing something to you that you want, yeah, whenever you're bringing something towards you that you absolutely need, you bring it from the sky during meditation. So you're bringing it from
Okay.
source, and when you don't need, you release it to the earth. Those are the two main things, the two main points
Hmm.
that you need to remember in order to clear out things that you don't want. Again, just release them to earth. You send it back to earth. And when you want to enrich yourself, and when you want to bless yourself, and you want to bring peace to yourself, you do that through source. You
Hmm.
bring it through the light of source, and it actually enriches you quite a bit. And you feel like you will feel within yourself that you feel enriched and you have achieved what you needed to achieve through the meditation. And that is when we slowly come out of the meditation.
I those I'm for me that's so helpful because like I am such a visual person. Like I am such a like even as a writer, even as someone who creates in that way, I have such a need to be able to visualize something in order to understand it. Right. Like,
Yeah.
so that for me is really helpful because when you have those like very clear visuals of like when you're saying like release to the earth and, like that sort of imagining yourself in nature and kind of the energetic sort of adding the imagery and the energetic process together is so really helpful. I think a lot of people are probably like that, right? Like if you
I'm happy
can't
that I
necessarily,
helped, Kelly.
yeah, like the visualization I think is really, really useful for a lot of people.
Yeah. So how are you feeling right now?
No, I'm feeling a lot better than I have been all week, so that's super awesome and nice. And I am excited to try the transcendental meditation with you after our recording here because I don't know, I do. I feel a lot lighter about it. There's,
Yeah.
and
Your
so it
consciousness is so light.
it's and it really is. I know some people might watch it and think it's wooey woo or what. I don't care. Listen, try it one time, and let me tell you what it is it's a very, like, you can sense the core vibration of yourself better. It's like they talk about, like, the chakras for a reason, right? Because, like, you can feel those energy centers, like, I don't know if giving off more light is maybe not the right way to say it, but, like, when you release the things that you need to release, you do feel lighter. Right? And
Hmm.
that's, again, definitely what I'm looking for because when you're in that space of feeling lighter, you have more energy and you have more capacity to do the things that you enjoy doing, right?
Yeah.
And
Um,
finding the fun.
and I'll share something with you right now. It
Mhm.
seems like you feel some love right now in your consciousness.
Yeah.
And that is really good too. Do you want to
I
talk about it a little bit?
I know that it's something I've been looking for. I think I have been trying again, I am very visual. So I have been trying to assign an identity to the source of it instead of just let it be there. And so again, like the doing versus the being, right? So
Mhm.
it's nice to find a space where you can relax enough to just, again, just feel the sensation of that
Mhm.
instead of trying to like fight to find where it is,
Oh
right?
yeah, there is no finding.
Right, it's here.
Because you can't find it. Here's the thing, you can never find it. People think, "Oh, I'm gonna find my soulmate." It's not about finding it. You cannot find it. You're going to receive it. Simple. You're going to attract it.
Right. That's
You
and
can't find
and
it.
the those definitions, right? Like as much, again, like the writer brain human thing of we have to categorize and use attach so much connotation to certain words and things like that, right? And like so that is something for me too, that like, yeah, not that you have to go find it, because finding it even in yourself means that you're like that somehow you think it might not be there, right? But it just is there.
Because
It
when
just
you're finding it, yeah, sorry, I'll let you.
no, go ahead, because like I there's this is a train of thought that I think I need to hear.
Yeah, because when you're finding it, that means that you already don't have it. And now you have to look for it. And that is again when you disassociate yourself from the source because you're the source. So you already have it. That is where change begins. You already have it. So you'll just receive it. Simple. And you have to, people think that, oh, but if I don't do anything, how will I get it? Absolutely right. Sometimes to receive it, it has to come via some channel. So you will feel that, oh, let me today take a walk down this path. Or, and you might find your person. Or let me today talk to my friend. But again, when your focus is, I'm doing it to find my soulmate,
Right. And the
you are,
energy is it's yeah, it's a different energy that like
yeah,
the seeking energy,
right.
right, is not where I want to
Absolutely.
be, right? Like
Right. Absolutely.
I have the solution already, or I have the answer,
Right.
or I do know the whatever is the thing. I have that
There you go.
already.
Yeah, there you go. Absolutely correct. Because the moment you go into the seeking energy, you have disassociate it with your true self.
Right.
Because your true self already has it and had it all along. So when you are in the state of your true self, then you will intuitively know when something is coming. And you will also intuitively know where it's coming. And you will also intuitively know how to prepare for it. So your true self is the answer to everything because it is who you truly are. It is your being and it has everything in preparation. And you know, I think I've said this way too many times, but since everything is already there, in our reality, we're just receiving things and they're just coming to us. We're attracting things. And when you understand this equation, it becomes very easy. But when people go like, no, 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 I have to go and search. I have to go and create this. I have to go and, bring this about.
Right.
They again disassociated themselves from their true selves because the true self, there is no effort. There is a flow.
Right.
There is a knowing and there is a having in true self. You will know what to do, even for your business purpose, whatever it is that you want, money,
Right.
whatever it is that you want. Your true self knows what you want, and your true self also knows how to get there. So when you set out an intention that I need this, sum of money, you will also know when you're setting out an intention from your ego and when you're setting out your intention from your true self. Because the ego wants fantasy, right? It loves fantasy.
Yeah, no, I mean that makes a lot of sense. The I think that's something I'm gonna have to work with too and integrate a little bit, that idea of like your ego sets in like a dollar amount, right? But like your true self doesn't need that
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Exactly. So sometimes, our desires are also coming from either our true self or the ego. The desires from the ego come with a void again. So you can have it, you'll still
Right.
feel empty. But the desires from the true self are coming with purpose and intent. And you know that these desires are coming from your true self because you can always tune in and experience the peace that you have while desiring.
Right.
Because there's nothing wrong with desiring. We'll desire all our lives. And
Right.
the true desires, the actual desires, they're not going to go anywhere. They'll always be with us because this is what we genuinely feel that we want to experience in our true selves. And everything is in place for the true self already. So it already knows the path, it already knows the way. And if you have a desire, an instinctive desire that I want to experience this right now, that is for a reason. It's a important part of your story. For example, you know, my sister had her first child at 34 years old or 35 years old. And she, at the time when she was having her first baby, she had this massive baby fever. Coming from her was kind of surprising because she never had it before for 7 years. She had been married, but she never really had that before.
Mm-hmm.
And divine timing, right? That's what people say. And
Right.
so when we look into it a little bit closely, her true self started to feel like, now I want to experience this. It's a part of my story. So the genuine desire starts to emerge.
Right.
And the genuine thankfulness also starts to emerge for it. An egoistic desire doesn't have the genuine thankfulness, the genuine desire. An egoistic self is, it comes again with a void. And I just need to, you're seeking some kind of validation from other people
Right.
and from yourself. There's some
That's
kind of
that's an
validation.
interesting point though, that um like the genuine desire, I I there's just sorry, there's a lot in there that I'm going to kind of have to unpack. Like the idea of divine timing, because I know that I place that there's some of that old belief structure, right, that I place along with the timing element, like, because like that withholding sort of like, I know the best time for you to have your happiness, not you, kind of thing, right? That, which is again, obviously just something that like needs to be let go of. Like, if I have this desire to experience something, the the reason that I want it to manifest now is because so does my inner being. Like, yeah, because I've told you that like this is what we would like to do now, kind of thing, right? Like, so you want it for a reason. You want it because you are ready to experience it, and your inner being is like, yeah, this is part of your story. Let's do this chapter now.
Right.
So I think there is some amount of for me just really having to like lean into the idea to really, I'm not sure how to say it, to accept that like my higher self, my inner being, the core of who I am, right, is where all of my desires come from. So I wouldn't want something that I couldn't have, and I wouldn't want something that I would just say like, no, I'm not going to give you that. I'm going to make you want it, but I'm not going to give it to you. Right?
Oh
Like,
yeah, absolutely.
that's not the conversation that's being had from the perspective of my inner being, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This is really important because a lot of times we think, oh, we want something, but the higher self doesn't want to give it. Which again, you're just associating with the higher self. You are your higher self. You are your true self, and to lean into it and timing. So sometimes we have blocks in our chakras. Sometimes it's difficult to feel like you already have something, which your true self feels like that it already
Right.
has. And that is why the TM sessions are valuable
And I'm going to say
because you
too,
release
that
attachments.
is such a, because I know like, and I know people like know, like they say you feel it in your gut. It's like it has gotten to the point for me where like, okay, yeah, like sacral chakra and my like second and third chakras are like where I'm feeling the pangs of something is like, ouch, right? So it's like, so there's obviously something there that I need to clear out, right? And again, it's an intuitive thing, right? Like, you can feel that pain, whatever that is. You think a thought that is a stressful thought, an anxious thought, and you feel that pang, right? And you know where it is in your body. And it's like, I
Your root
absolutely,
chakra. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, I absolutely can sense that that's where those things are coming from. and that I like there's an
Yeah.
energy of some kind there that needs to be transmuted and released.
Right. Absolutely. Uh, just just going to squeeze in what I saw
Oh,
for you. Your sacral chakras is still quite active, but the execution of things are not able to happen, even though you're executing the money flow and stability structure where you know the money
right.
is going to continuously flow. That's not happening because the root chakra is needs to release a lot of things. It's quite it's not active. It's filled right now. It's blocked. So
Okay.
it's something we will revisit in the session when you and I meet to activate it essentially and release a pain. And oftentimes, for anybody who's listening, thinking, "Why is the root chakra that way?" When you have an attachment in your consciousness to an older event, to an older programming, which makes you feel like you're losing stability, especially comes from parents, but they're the ones who provide for us when we're younger. So when there is instability in that providing, your root chakra will really struggle unless you release that attachment and you forgive and forgo and you clear out your root chakra and you release the attachments. And what is necessary over here is a lot of forgiveness and a lot of, you know, just understanding in your consciousness who you are. So again, getting in touch with your true self, going through those deep TM sessions, releasing attachments, clearing out anything that is withholding you from going onto your path, from feeling the experience, from feeling and experiencing success the way you want to. And really healing your inner child and also healing your chakras because they get, it's almost like, when a car goes over, let's say a balloon, the balloon deflates. It's one of those things.
Yeah.
So you need to almost like inflate it back. You need to do it with your good thinking, good thoughts that comes after your TM sessions. It's very easy to tap into great thoughts, great thought process because you feel so light and happy. And you're
Yeah.
like, this was so easy. This is great, you
And
know?
that's exactly where I'm trying to be. That's exactly that's the state of being I want to operate from. And that's
Mhm.
really the biggest thing for me is that I am able to recognize and discern when I am trying to force myself into action out of the ego, anxiety ridden self, right? And I know that I would prefer and that the better actions come from when I am in a space of feeling connected. That's when I should be. I know that it's not going to feel like action, right? Because when you're in flow, it's effortless. And so I know that there's something there in my belief structures that sort of says you that I don't recognize when I'm in flow as much because I set so much store in action, right? Or
Mhm.
in like the necessity of like my taking action that like when I take an action that feels effortless, I sort of I don't tally that up for myself, right? Like if it doesn't feel like effort, I don't feel like I get to like give myself a little star on the good for you board in the classroom kind of thing, right? But really that is the way that it should be, right? So like
Yeah.
having to kind of like flip that perception in my mind a little bit of like give yourself a star when you are feeling that flow and you take an action because it means you took an inspired by your inner being action and not
Yeah.
the actions that you take out of obligation.
Right. And let's talk about that a little bit more. Let's talk about alignment and misalignment. When
Yes.
our when our chakras are aligned and we have an action that comes to our mind, oh, doesn't it feel so easy and effortless? Because we just take
Right.
the action. It feels like we have all the energy. There is no friction that we experience. But we will
Right.
experience friction when our chakras are not aligned. And that is when it feels like a chore. It's so difficult. Can't
Mm,
do it. Just can't find the time. I don't know how to get there. Those
right.
things will start to emerge because your chakras are not aligned again. It goes back to the attachment. It
Mhm.
goes back to the older, to the pain, to the trauma, to the programming that needs to be released for you to get in touch with your true self
Mhm.
and for your chakras to be in alignment. So the only thing that keeps them outside of alignment is pain, is something blocking from the past or the current circumstances. And that is what triggers the ego self. So the ego self is triggered by the pain and attachments, kind of giving a summary here. The ego self
Mhm.
is triggered by the pain and attachments. When you release that, you get to your true self. Your true self is where your chakras are aligned, where actions are effortless and things are easy.
Mhm.
To get to your true self, you need to actively release the attachments. You have to forego of those subconscious mind programmings. And transcendental meditation is an excellent technique to do that. Even hypnosis, where you're releasing that older programming. A lot
Yeah.
of there are quite a few tools. Hypnosis is one, transcendental meditations, and also writing things down
Mhm.
and getting into a meditative state and then writing things down. You channel what you need to release.
Okay.
And and once you let go of those attachments, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about it, Haleigh, during our session, what you particularly need. Um, Once you let go of those attachments, your chakras are now all nicely activated and in alignment.
I mean, it's like a circuit, right? Like, if you don't have all the pieces in alignment in a circuit, the electricity is not going to run through cleanly, right? It's the
Hmm.
same kind of thing. And you feel that sensation when you are in alignment. Like, you can feel that, like, energy is flowing, electricity is there, feeling, right? And obviously, that's where we all want to be. That's the
Hmm.
vibration we all want to be in, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And another thing is that when our chakras are aligned and, they're open and they're activated and there's nothing holding us back, the things we want to manifest, the things that we desire, oh, I want this, I need this, yada, 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 they start to happen like
Hmm.
you have nothing holding you back. Your consciousness is all clear. Your reality is your consciousness pushed out. Your
Right.
consciousness is all clear. There's nothing holding you back. There's no past. There's nothing that's keeping you behind. You're able to receive right away and really, really quickly. Effortless. It's all pleasurable.
Yes. That That makes a lot of sense when when you release that past, then there are no filters of the past that are continuing to like block what you do already
Want
have,
to
what's
receive.
already
Yeah,
here and what's already there. So it's not go look for it. It is just receive it.
absolutely. There you go.
I love
Awesome,
it.
Haleigh.
That's so great. Well, I do want to like make sure that I'm respectful of your time. So I do want to be able to get into like our personal session. But thank you so much for doing this, for showing people. I'm keeping it together here for the recording, but I'm pretty sure Sarah already knows I will be a blubbering mess probably because that's just how it happens sometimes. But honestly, really just like, again, from the energetic space I know I have found myself in for the last week. And for the energetic space I can feel myself being in right now, like, such a priceless thing, I can't like, it's just such a wonderful assistive thing. So, I do thank you
You
so
seem
much,
so
and
happy, even in your
I am,
consciousness.
like, just
You're
so
light
it's
as
like
air.
it's such a nice feeling, and it's so much better a space to be in, and so I do wanna say thank you, and I do absolutely go into the description links and go find Sarah because it's such you can't put words on how wonderful it is to feel better and to not need the thing that you think you needed to manifest in your reality before you feel better, right?
Yeah.
Like it's such a big deal. So I do thank you so much, and I can't wait for us to do a little bit more work here, and I can't wait to schedule another. I'm gonna probably ask for your help for another transcendental meditation after this too, because I know that my brain can get a little bit noisy, and
Mhm.
the having a coach and having somebody kind of walk you through things is something that I know is definitely it has absolutely been helpful for me. So,
Mhm.
to everyone out there who might
Absolutely.
Just give it a try one time, I'm telling you.
Thank you, Haleigh. I also want to clarify that when people say that they experience a lot of lightness and now they're happy and they feel like, oh, so excited about things. A part of it is because your consciousness is working, our consciousness is working together to identify the things that were holding you back and release it. So that's where the impact is quite deep. It feels deep. It feels like something released inside, something cleared out. I let go of something massive. Oh, this is so light now. I don't feel something, carrying out in my head anymore. But it's literally the magic of your consciousness, which agreed to work with my consciousness.
Right. And that's the thing that I think is so important for people to recognize is that, like, you become more powerful in your ability to move forward when you work together and you connect with other people's energy in that way, right? Which is why we all are seeking connection. That's why we're all looking for love and friends and support and community and success, right? Because really what we're looking for is that connection and that co-creation of consciousness. And that is really the beautiful, exciting thing.
Yeah, and absolutely. And if I may add, that is what an experience with a medium is like, with a spiritual coach is like, because they're able to read your consciousness. So it's a lot more deeper than what usually people think or believe it is. So just to give a taste of what it is like to work with a medium or a spiritual coach, you are going to be working with your consciousness. And if they're psychic like me, then you will be forming psychic connections. And that's the way to work is, it feels quite transformative and it's quite different. So yeah, I just wanted to add that bit because, I do see a lot of, when clients come to me, the first question is, tell me a little bit about your practice. And then they really want to understand what it feels like. So I get it. So yeah,
it's kind of one of those things that it's a sensation that, like, you can't really describe it, right, or define it, but you know it when you feel it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderfully put.
It's a
Wonderfully put.
great feeling, it really is. So, thank you so much for So
Oh, it's
appreciate
been a
you.
pleasure.
Thanks
Oh, it
everyone for
was
joining
lovely
us and for
meeting you.
listening, and we can't wait to I can't wait to have you back another time to explore more of this.
Absolutely. Looking forward. Thanks so much, Haleigh.
Hi again, friends. Franki here. Thanks for joining us today to get the 411. You can get more details on today's guests by checking out the links in the description. And if you'd like to support more episodes of the Franki 411 podcast, you can become a patron at patreon.com/FrankiWasHere and find all of my other social media links down below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment, leave a review, do all those things that you wonderful listeners can do. Until next time, much love to you, my earthbound and cosmic friends. Wherever you are out there, I hope you're doing well.